Meet Cosmic Soga, my Dawn Warrior, Lomien boss mule. Since the Night of Cygnus revamp and the Ignition update, I've been playing this character regularly, defeating bosses and gathering their crystals so I can sell them for a big chunk of mesos every week. Here's how I do it. Dawn Warrior is all about cosmic power and space. You could say it's the only space-themed class in Maplestory even. The purple sphere that you're seeing here is part of the 90-second burst Dawn Warriors have. The full burst comes up every 3 minutes and we will be going over the skills shortly. I always try to start my bossing week on these characters off by doing Colvet, and this character nearly reaches a score of 600. Not great, but also not terrible. In between big bosses, I always try to fit in some of the weaker bosses while I wait for my cooldowns. After Zakum, I enter Lotus, and here I can showcase some of these skills. First of all, Dawn Warrior has a good amount of iframes. Some of them are attached to your burst skills, but the dashes that you're seeing here in P1 of Lotus have a short cooldown and can get you out of many sticky situations. You can even see that I'm invulnerable for a short amount of time after using the dash, which is super amazing. As for the burst skills, you have two big ones that you can activate every 3 minutes. One that empowers your main attacking skill, and the other one that summons the sun in the background that continuously attacks any mobs in the foreground. You can also let the sun explode to deal a massive amount of damage at once. Summoning and desummoning the sun will also grant you an iframe, which is pretty nice. Other than that, this Dawn Warrior clocks in at around 19k stats and has an okay WSE setup. The weapons, secondary and emblem are all 2-line. My plan, however, is to improve these so I can, later on, defeat hard loaders on the weekly. That would be my goal for this character. That's also why I still do the Arcane River weeklies after I'm done bossing. Besides that, the rest of the gear is either unique or legendary and at around 17 stars. The only other thing that is worth mentioning in this Lotus fight is that I managed to get it done without having to set up my burst again. That can be the troublesome part about having a bossing mule that has a 3-minute cooldown on their main damage output. Still, Dawn Warriors are so strong that this argument doesn't really have a ton of weight attached to it. But if I compare the class to my other Lomien bossing mules like Wind Archer, Thunderbreaker, or even Blaze Wizard, you know, it just feels different. So sometimes if I have to burst twice in order to get through a boss fight, it can feel a little iffy, but it's really no big deal since you can always go to the lower bosses and just beat them up in the meantime. Alright, so let's continue with the Damien boss fight here. So upon entering the boss fight, I immediately pop the sun skill and all the other buffs that go along, then I activate the debuff on the boss and start smacking him. And here you can really see the strength of Dawn Warrior. Since your main attacking skill is so huge, you barely need to move around. It doesn't really matter what Damien is doing, he can be up in the air, diving or whatever. You're still able to hit him no matter what, and I think that's just straight up amazing in this boss fight. Then once he phases, he summons his blue balls. Don't Google blue balls, by the way. And okay, never mind. Yeah, now our burst is basically over and we need to DPM the boss. And that's, you know, it's basically just using your main attacking skill and then you can put down this little purple puddle there. You know, it's a summon. I think it's mostly used for mobbing. I'm not even sure how much damage that even contributes, to be honest. Besides that, I just keep focused on attacking the boss as much as I can, right? And once my 90-second burst is up, I use the purple sphere again and the AB link and yeah, start smacking again. After the mini burst is over, we don't really have a lot of gas left in the tank and I end up having to burst the boss twice here, which, you know, is absolutely fine, but that also means that in order to wait for my burst, I'll just go to, you know, bosses like Hilla, Zakum, right, in order to wait out the cooldown timer. So once I have my burst up, I go into Clown here, and there's one special technique that I'm wanting to share with you guys here, and that is dying on purpose in this boss fight. Since buff freezes were removed, it really doesn't matter anymore when you die in a boss fight, as long as you don't die out, right? And I use that here in order to get rid of the head, and just continue bursting down Pierre, which is, you know, something that you could also utilize in your own boss fights. And then lastly, here's a clip of me defeating Golox. Dawnware is fairly strong and has a good Golox fight since you can dash through the breath attacks, right? So currently I'm only fighting Golox on the weekly whenever I do the rest of my bosses here, simply because I can't really be asked to log into my boss mules every day to do Golox. I think it's so tedious, but at the same time I want to bring this guy up to Hard Lotus, and that means that I will end up having to get the superior Golox set. It just makes way too much sense. And here's the last boss that I want to showcase, or rather the precursor to Princess Snow, the big pink whale. I feel like on some classes I would completely skip this boss fight, simply for the fact that this part of getting to Princess Snow takes way too long. Dawnware though has a really good time actually, because the main attack has such great reach and does a ton of lines. I do a pretty poor job here actually attacking the whale. You know, usually I would be done here already, I feel like, but still it is super comfortable and not a struggle at all like on many other classes. Of course, Princess Snow is just a joke afterwards. And yeah, that is basically how I get 1.4 billion mesos every week. And lastly, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you will know that this video was a little out of the ordinary, right? I'm actually on vacation right now, celebrating my honeymoon with my beautiful wife, traveling across Asia and celebrating our marriage. So, just in case you're a new viewer and this is the first video you've watched on this channel, I usually upload a progression log of my main character, a Nightwalker that I've burnt in Ignition. I upload my progression videos weekly on Thursdays and be back soon, so if you want to stick around, feel free to subscribe and I see you around. Take care everybody, bye bye.